All right. Hey guys, I hope everyone is doing well. This is Rudy. Hey, I want to do a book review today. The Blood of Lambs by Kamal Saleem. The Blood of Lambs by Kamal Saleem. And also I'm going to put a video in the information bar. It's about 25 minutes. It starts out with Rick Santorum, and then there's a Muslim guy by the name of Tawfik Hamid that talks during the course of the video. And at 15 minutes and 36 seconds, you can just jump right ahead if you want to hear this part. At 15 minutes and 36 seconds, he said, this Tawfik guy says the Quran does not teach that apostates should be killed. He goes on to say that there's no compulsion in religion. Okay, this video was sent to me by someone who doesn't share any of my Christian values. He's a deist, and I won't mention his YouTube handle. I'm not here to debate with him, but I am here to give my review of that video and also this book that I just finished reading. This book is very, very good. The Blood of Lambs by Kamal Saleem. I couldn't put it down. I mean, it was like 2:30 in the morning. I was still reading it, but I knew I had to get some sleep, so I had to put it down. But I just devoured it over a few days. It really gives you the insider's view about how Muslims think of Westerners, how they think of the Western culture. And there's various things that you need to understand. And I said these before, so I won't spend a lot of time on them. But the Quran teaches that it's okay to lie if it furthers the cause of Islam. The Quran says that if you further the cause of Islam, you can lie to an infidel. And that's totally not what the Bible teaches. You can read Fox's Book of Martyrs, and a Christian, a devout Christian, would rather die burning to death on a pile of sticks than lie before God and before men. But a Muslim, they can lie to infidels all day long. It's approved of by their God. The other concept is abrogation. And when this Tawfik guy says that the Quran does not teach stoning of apostates, he quotes a verse, Quran verse 2, Surah 2, verse 256. But that's very early in the Quran. And abrogation teaches that if there's any conflicts in the Quran, just go with the later verses. And Muhammad started out, when he created the Islamic religion, he was not very popular, so he had to be very peaceful and accommodating. But as he became more and more warlike and became more and more popular, his message changed quite a bit to, kill, kill, kill. And I want to read you guys that and give you some examples of that. Another concept that you need to understand is that when Muslims think of a Christian, they think of a Christian as a polytheist pagan. They think that you worship multiple gods because they can't understand that God would become flesh and call himself Jesus Christ. They can't understand that. Through their very, very young age, it's been drilled into their head that Jesus is just a prophet, and he's not even as good of a prophet as Muhammad. And they don't understand that God become flesh, and not only do they not understand it, they think it's evil. They think when a Christian worships Jesus, that's worshiping multiple gods. Not only are you worshiping Jesus, you worship the Holy Spirit and you worship God. Therefore, you have three gods. Therefore, you are a polytheist. And they put you in the same category with pagans and disbelievers. And that's very important that you understand that, because when the Quran talks about polytheists and pagans and disbelievers, it's very easy for the mental mind of a Muslim to throw Christians into that group. And the Quran says some very nasty stuff about polytheists. Not only that, it just says very nasty stuff about Christians directly, right? And it says very, very bad stuff about Jews. Matter of fact, let me read you one of the verses in the Hadith about Jews. This is the Al-Bukhari Hadith. This is volume 4. And I want to read to you what it says about Jews. Narrated Abdullah bin Umar, Allah's messenger said, "You Muslims will fight against the Jews till some of them will hide behind stones." In other verses, I've heard it trees. The Jews will hide behind stones. The stones will betray them, saying, "O Abdullah, slave of Allah, there is a Jew hiding behind me, so kill him." The next verse says the same thing. They say the stones will cry out, "There's a Jew behind me, kill him." And I've heard other verses where it says tree. The tree will talk to the Muslim and say, "There's a Jew." And then they'll say that there's a special kind of tree that's a Jewish tree, And that particular kind of tree will not tell the Muslim because that tree supports Jews. So, okay, I want to cover two things in this video. One of them is this book, right? Okay, another thing is that video, and I'm going to put the video, if you want to watch it, it was sent to me by a deist. And a deist is someone who believes in God, but they don't believe in any organized religion. And they don't believe in the Bible, that's for sure. But I'm not here to debate the guy who sent me that video. That's maybe for another time. But if you want to watch the video, I'll put the link in the information bar, and it's by Tawfik, Hamid, and I was not impressed with this guy. I mean, I'm very familiar. I wouldn't say I'm very familiar, but I'm pretty dang familiar with what the Quran says, and I'm starting to become very familiar with what the Hadith says. And when I watched that video, either the guy is lying, either Tawfik is lying, or he's incompetent, or he is just unable to come to grips with the fact that the Quran is not of God, that the Quran is a very evil book. He just cannot bring himself to say that. This particular guy, the guy who wrote this book, did convert to Christianity. And so I'm much more aligned with him, even though he has killed many people. And he was an ex-jihadist. And he's, it talks about his transformation. But this Tawfik guy will not come out and say that the Quran is evil. Matter of fact, he tries to justify the Quran. And that's why I have no sympathy for him. If you want to understand one of the things that I picked up on, just go to 15 minutes and 36 seconds. 15 minutes and 36 seconds. And it says the Quran this is his words, this is a quote from him. He says the Quran does not teach that apostates should be killed. And then he goes on to say that there is no compulsion in religion, and he's quoting a Quranic verse, Surah 2, verse 256. Okay, but Surah 2, verse 256 is very early in the Quran, and you guys should already know about the concept of abrogation, which says that if there's any contradictions in the Quran, go with the later verses, because Muhammad was peaceful early on and he became more violent later on. Well, the Quran definitely talks about killing of apostates, and so that was either a lie or he just hasn't reconciled in his head, the concept of abrogation and the verses that do say to kill apostates, and I want to cover some of those later on. So I think I've already covered the fact that Muslims think of Christians as polytheist, and they put polytheist and pagans and atheists and disbelievers all in the same category, and you're infidels. I want to read to you the Muslim Brotherhood, who is financed by many different Muslim people, but they're also funded by Muslim Saudi Arabia oil. I want to read to you the motto of the Muslim Brotherhood. This is the motto of the Muslim Brotherhood. Allah is our prophet, the prophet is our leader, the Quran is our law, jihad is our way, dying in the way of Allah is our highest hope. The best thing that a Muslim hopes for is to die as a martyr. That he is absolutely committed to dying as a martyr for Allah. The Muslims also believe that 5 books came down from God. They believe that these are holy books from God. Moses was given the Torah. David was given the Psalms. Jesus was given the Gospel. Abraham was given a book called the Holy Suhuf that has been lost over time. And of course, Muhammad was given the Quran. So let's see how much time I got. I'm up to 8 minutes. Okay. I want to read to you guys about the 72 virgins. I'll read as quick as I can. This is a child in Islam being taught about the 72 virgins. My father did not teach madrasa often, but would sit in during specifically important lessons. I remember the day we learned about the 72 virgins. My brothers, Fuad, Ibram, Omar, were there, and also my mother's brothers, Uncle Khalid and Uncle Shafiq. My mother sat quietly at the end of the table while father told us a story from the Hadith about a man who charged into a Jewish army all alone, sacrificing himself for Allah. The moment he died, he woke up instantly in Jannah, which is paradise. Father said, Allah presented him with 72 virgins, women who had never been touched by a man, and each virgin had 72 virgins attending to her, and all these women belonged to the man who died as al-Shahid, a martyr. Uncle Khalid winked at Fuad, who grinned widely. It seemed my oldest brother thought this was a fine arrangement. But I sat on my tasat and thought about it. 72 times 72? At 6 years old, I could not even count that high. Father, I said, you only have one woman in the house and you fight all the time. How are you going to be able to manage so many women? My uncles burst out laughing, and Father smiled a little sheepishly. He thought it over for a moment, then said, the grace of Allah is sufficient. He went on to explain that there would be no bickering or fighting in Jannah. These women will attend to all your desires and all your needs. So they are servants, I said? No, they are hurara, virgin women. They will not be angels, but not human either. They will be there for your heart's desire. I knew what he meant. My friends had told me a million versions of how sex was done. Also, I had seen sheep and goats mating in a little barn behind our building. But now I wondered, what about my mother? I looked down the table and caught her eye. Then I turned to my father again. You are married to my mother, I said. If you die as a martyr and you get this many virgins, how about if my mother died as a martyr? What does she get? My uncles and my brothers laughed, although a bit nervously this time. Father looked at mother, who returned his glance, then looked down. Finally, he said, your mother will become one of the huriyah. Your mother will become one of the virgins. I frowned and looked down at the wood patterns in the table. This answer did not settle well with me. My brother Ibrahim had once told me angrily that in the Quran, Muhammad referred to women as the ground that we walk on. We could not think of our mother that way. I could feel everyone staring at me, waiting. Finally, I looked up at Father. If my mother works hard in this life and dies as an al-Shaheed, martyr, why doesn't she get 72 virgin men? My uncles' mouths popped open. They looked at each other, threw back their heads, and roared with laughter. My father's face flushed red, and a vein on his neck began to pulse. Then, quick as a cobra, his hand closed the distance to my face. Whack! Insolent boy, never talk about your mother that way. And then it goes on to say how the father approached the boy a little bit later on and said that the mother will be the head of the virgins. But the little boy said he checked with his imam, or that the imam would say certainly that would not be the case, because Muslims do not believe that to be the case. So there's also a verse in the Quran that talks about virgins, and I wanted to read that as well. Also, I wanted to make a point about the 72 virgins too, but this is the Quran, Surah 55. Let's start with like verse 52 and work our way down. Surah 55, starting with verse 52. Which of the Lord's blessings would you deny? Therein are bashful virgins, whom neither man nor jinni. Jinni is angels, okay? You got mankind and angels. There are bashful virgins whom neither man nor jinni will have touched before. Which of your Lord's blessings would you deny? Virgins as fair as corals and rubies? Which of your Lord's blessings should you deny? And beside these there will be 2 other gardens. Which of your Lord's blessings would you deny? Of darkest green. A gushing fountain shall flow in each planted with fruit trees, the palm and the pomegranate. In each there shall be virgins, chaste and fair, dark-eyed virgins, sheltered in their tents, whom neither man nor jinni will have touched before. Which of your Lord's blessings would you deny? They shall recline on green cushions and fine carpets. So the Quran talks about all kinds of promises of virgins, and it also talks about promises of young boys that never mature if you swing the other way. The thing that I would offer, if God is promising to his people now 72 virgins, I had a discussion and Tommy lit up my mind about this, but that's not even a big deal. If you have a lot of money, you can probably, let's change it to whore, right? You could probably get a whore to do anything you wanted to for $500. So multiply 500 times 72, and it's not unheard of that you could get that on earth today, right? So there's nothing special about 72 virgins, and the fact that it goes to show you the warped mentality about sex. Muslims have a very warped mentality about sex. I also want to cover that video. I want to do a video response to Tawfik, Hamid, but I'm running out of time, so let me stop and restart.